we have started the party with the official Kansas City World Cup scarf. Pam, branding extraordinaire. She's not even here to talk about brand as much as some other stuff, and we all got them and got to connect back in the green room. For our final panel, we'll mix it up a little bit in terms of style. I am not going to introduce the panelists. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They've all said this is okay. Some really liked the idea. Some said, I really don't like this idea, but it was majority rules, and here we are. So we'll just kind of quickly go through and have each person tell you just a little about who they are, and then we're going to get into the conversation that I hope will be really, really fascinating for everyone, talking about how one global event across 16 cities, an entire continent, can really feel like one connected event. This, for me, so much symbolizes such a beautiful panel to end on because it symbolizes this idea of me to we in this incredible way that is sports and entertainment and all of the things. So we'll go down the line just for introductions. Wilson, take it away.
Wilson Smith, footwear designer at Nike for 41 years until I just graduated and started out in the world of architecture and I've just been designing homes for the feet. That was my journey for 41 years. All right.
I'm Gilberto Silva, Brazilian, former football player, as we call it, soccer player here in America. Arsenal former player too. And then, for 3 times I played in the World Cup, and this time will be my 7th opportunity to be featuring this beautiful competition. Be part of this event is something very special, and special to be here with all of the guests and with you guys.
He's too humble, World Cup champion, right? How about that?
Champion, yes. Arsenal, yes.
A very rare accomplishment.
Thank
I'm
you.
Pam Kramer. I'm CEO of the Kansas City Host Committee for the FIFA World Cup 26. Lots of Kansas City fans. I love it. Really excited to be here. We in Kansas City are very focused on not just hosting matches, but hosting people. And the entire theme of Populous House is really centered on that. So looking forward to the conversation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Keas, senior principal with Populous, as well as America's regional board member. And then I also lead our event division, our event practice. And so what that means is get the great pleasure to work on things such as Olympics and Super Bowls and little things like World Cups.
So when we were thinking about this panel and how to put it together and this idea of connection, I hope you can see why we have each person on the panel. We're going to kind of get things started by getting different perspectives of the different people that are participating in a World Cup, because from each of our purviews it's very different, and I think to understand a rounded experience you always want to hear from people in every part and every angle of it. So Gilberto, we're going to start with you. I would love for you to be a little less humble and tell people more about your career, so kind of how you got started. We had the opportunity to do a panel together on Saturday, and I got to learn some things about your youth and becoming a professional soccer player at 17. So I'd love for you to share a little more so the audience gets to hear your story.
Well, I grew up on a very small village back in Brazil, where my parents used to work on a sugarcane factory. There was where I live, I play football on barefoot with friends and colleagues, my cousin, on the streets, and then in school. This is how everything began for me. And I have a great inspiration by the time because my father used to play amateur football. This for me was like going to paradise because every opportunity I have to watch him play, going to the games was something fantastic. But then everything starts. But later on I start play with the football academies there. But the place where I grew up, there was not a real academy. We play for fun, just because we want to be together. We want to be part of the game. We want to just to have something fun. Because football for us was fun, not a competition really. Despite the fact we want to compete to be who wins the game, who scores more goals. But later on, when I had the first opportunity to play on a proper football academy, I was 17 years old. And it was fun enough because looking back from where everything began, my village, and then being a football club, I said, wow, this is the moment for me where I can change a lot of things to my family and my life too. And but it's not that simple, as we expect. Few months later, after 5 months, there's some difficult starts. I was away from family. It was the first time. There was not money. My father could not afford to send me money to pay for things I want. And became even harder, missing home, and until the moment I had to stop. And I stopped my career in that moment in the club because for the family reasons. My mom was not feeling well by the time. I quit football on this club and went back to my hometown to work, to help family. I have 3 younger sisters. As the oldest one, I felt the responsibility to come back to my hometown. It's, at some stage, people, start asking you, why did you do that, You did something wrong. Why is that? You missed an opportunity. I say, listen, maybe, but I think this moment for me, football is something I really love, I'm passionate of, but there are something more important in life, is my family, is to support my mom. Even though the money I earn, work in a factory, where I used to work for 2.5 years, on a switch factory, did not save everything. But my conscious mind, there was something more special for me, more relevant, which was my family. I came back, worked there for 2.5 years, but the dream is still there, never got away from me, because I kept playing football on amateur clubs in my hometown, playing region around in other towns, different competition, amateur competition. But my mind at some point just said, well, the moment will come. And the moment came for me. When I was 19 and back, in Brazil, was for me the last opportunity, because after 20, there was no chance the club would get me back. They would accept me. And then I had to make the decision to leave the job I was doing. And but before that, I had to make a plan, just to make things work in football, And for 1 month, I did the preparation by myself. I had no coach, not Nike shoes for do my running. Now I have, thanks that. I didn't have nobody to help me out. I had to do all my preparation by myself. Woke up in the morning, do some running, 3 times a day, do some training for 30 days. Nobody to help me out. This with a combination of after I left my job and did this preparation. I came back to the club. And that's where everything started. This is how I started play football. And few years later, 6 years later, to be more precise, I was playing my first World Cup with Brazil and become a world champion with them.
Woo, 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 woo.
Thank goodness he followed that inkling of there is something more for me. And I don't hold a microphone without getting a little preachy about believing in yourself. I like my friend Bad Bunny. He's not my friend, but if anyone can introduce me, I'd love to be friends with Bad Bunny. But believing in yourself can go so far. And so I love that story. And I think it's such a good way to kick this off, because it is easy, I think, for us to watch athletes play in a game and see them as athletes on the field, to see them as the person who missed the goal, the person who scored the winning goal. It can be so many things that feel so focused on that moment that you're in, that specific, that one identity, that identity of being the athlete on the field in that moment. Wilson, you are excellent at translating the human identity of an athlete, people like Michael Jordan and Serena Williams, and taking that identity and translating it into something, into a design. So will you tell us a little about your story and how you got into it, and then also that work that you do? What does it look like to take someone like Gilberto, the identity of someone that is so rich and deep and complex, and try and translate it into design?
Awesome. Thank you, Ariana. So I have to give a shout out to Gilberto. It's so great to hear your story and to kind of represent a little bit
Sí.
Not.
Oh, yeah.
I just kind
I
of
love that. I
have a
love
little,
that.
have a little fun.
I wish I
have
had
a little
brought
fun with it.
my yellow one. I wish. If I knew that, I would bring the
Yeah,
yellow
that
one.
would be, that's awesome. No, but it's so cool because what we try to do, the joy that I've had of working with athletes and to try to help tell those amazing stories, like what you just said, that connect all of us as human beings to your amazing journey, and we get to almost like viscerally be on the pitch out there with you. Just thinking about you, for example, this piece here, I have a Jordan, logo. It's a Jordan jersey for the World Cup. One of the cool things when you think about United States and just what we've been in terms of sports, and thinking about some of the sports that have resonated for centuries. Say American football or basketball, but then you think of Jordan. But when you connect the thought of Jordan with Brazil and championship and Gilberto who won in '02, that's a great connection, and it gives everybody an opportunity to kind of become a part of that story. We all get to connect, and so that's pretty fun. Actually, the other day I arrived here with a friend on the airplane who's sitting right over there, and we bought this shirt. So it's over at the Nike store. Anyway, enough of that. I get distracted. The opportunity of really trying to dimensionalize an athlete's story is really joyful. And it's not unlike what we do with a building. It's not unlike what we do in any way that we're trying to connect. Because it's almost like, I remember there was a statement that said in the 90s, this is a little coarse, but around Nike, they're saying we make shoes, we make clothes, and we make up the rest. There's an opportunity to really make up the rest in terms of making the connection. Just doing the stuff is nothing unless you are able to hopefully make a connection somehow. And it's all about the stories. That's what it's all about. And so I've had the joy of working with Mr. Jordan, or working with Serena Williams. For example, a little story about her real quick, making up the rest with her. When she comes to Nike, she's a designer herself. So working with her, she's the design director. I mean, just work with her, let her do her thing. And I've had the joy of working with Serena, but watching her evolve in her career. She initially, when she was going to be at the U.S. Open, and we were going to be with her, we'd only been with her for about 10 months. And I was trying to get a shoe together for her to do a head-to-toe story, and she was wearing jean skirt because she loved Agassi's jean shorts, and so she wanted to wear a jean skirt. So we put this all together, and when I was seeing her, she was always wearing boots, and I thought, I asked her, I had a dream. I said, what do you think about a tennis boot? And she's like, oh, she loved the idea. So a tennis boot. So this was in the '04 U.S. Open. She comes out. So actually I used her fashion sense because our CEO told me, Mark Parker said, hey, listen, let her lead with fashion, and then you define it with innovation. So I went to Nike Innovation. I said, what do you think about a tennis boot? They said, well, if you treat it like a compression sleeve, something that we're kind of learning about compression and what it does in terms of warming up, muscles and that kind of thing. So I kind of created a spat over the top of the shoe. And so the U.S. Open people didn't even really want her to wear it much. They said that's a lot. We said, we just want her to warm up in it because we want her not to cramp during the match. So she warms up in it. She zips the boot off. But the amazing thing was all the images taken during that tournament were pretty much taken during the warm-ups. I mean, every image is just Serena in her boots because she didn't wear the boots during the match. And it kind of shows how people like Gilberto and other amazing athletes transcend even the sport they're playing in. And when you're thinking about a player coming onto the court and their experience, and so you're just kind of marking out a journey. So anyway, so I've had the fun of working with athletes and kind of telling stories like that. I could go for a minute, but
We're going to let him. If we run short, I'm leaning in.
I'll chill.
No, it's beautiful. And so I think what's so interesting about that is sort of you're working in the realm of connecting with athletes and connecting them to brands. And then these designs come together, but those designs are consumed by consumers. So it's people who want to feel connected. They want to feel connected to Jordan or to Serena. And that connection to fans is such an important part of the process. This doesn't work if you don't have that holistic connection between everyone. And that is right where Pam sits, in that connection between brands and fans and sports. And so what I would love for you to do is talk a little bit about, for people who are not from Kansas City in this room, understanding what is KC 2026, what are the goals of it? You know my favorite topic. I'm not even going to say it. I won't reveal it. No spoilers. But I'd love to hear a little bit about you building what you've built, and then talking about how you make that connection for fans.
Sure, thank you. And I think you're going to hear a lot of the same themes. We didn't discuss it ahead of time, but connection and driving passion for what you do and how important that is. KC 2026 is a nonprofit. We're separate from any jurisdiction. Kansas City is the smallest host city of all 16. This is the largest version of the biggest sporting competition in the world. So the biggest thing in all of history, no pressure. But we couldn't do it as any single jurisdiction. We have to be regional. We have to bring people together. We have to operate from a place of creating sustained and long-term impact for the people who live in Kansas City. Those 6 matches are really important. The teams that base camp in Kansas City, really important. What happens to the belief in ourselves? What happens to the way people think about us? If they know about us, it's probably because of our Kansas City Chiefs or our sports teams. How do we take that and connect it to what they know about? So that is their team, their passion, their fandom. And that's really where the Fan Festival comes in. Lots of people go to matches. I hope many, many people get to go to matches. But there is an economic barrier to being able to go to a match. So in Kansas City, it was vitally important to us and to our stakeholders that Fan Fest is free. So that's no small feat. It takes a lot of people buying into the idea that this moment could be transformational for us and for the people who visit Kansas City. But we want that experience. We want them to feel what we feel when we're watching the Chiefs at Arrowhead. We want them to feel ownership. We want them to feel like they belong in Kansas City, and we want Kansas Cityans to feel like the moment belongs to them. So I think it is and we're thinking about it beyond just the fan. We're thinking about how do we attract foreign investment to Kansas City? How do we create business conversations? We'll have more global CEOs and heads of state than ever before. So we're maybe thinking about it a little differently than just hosting the matches, because perhaps in Kansas City the opportunity is bigger for us.
Beautifully said. And it's worth noting that there are 16 host cities in North America. 2 are free, have free Fan Fests? There are 2. And Kansas City is 1. And then there's also KC House, which is sort of, it feels like, we've talked a lot today about bringing people together in real life. There's the Fan Fest that connects fans to each other, to the game. It democratizes access to this beautiful sport. But then there are also things you're doing like Kansas City House, which really seems to be that economic driver, that thing that helps. There are a lot of visiting dignitaries. What are the teams that are staying in Kansas City? A lot. No other city has 4 teams who have decided that it's the best city.
And no other team has more than 1 Pot 1 team, and we have 3.
Yes.
So,
yes. Also, everyone's being humble, but just so that you know, FIFA is like Pam Kramer. Like, they just keep saying, look at what Pam Kramer is doing in Kansas City. They're telling other host cities in North America to do what she is doing. So she is humble, but she is wildly talented. And it's because, as you can tell, she really cares about people and the experience they're going to have and what it means for the city. So
it's a team effort. I mean, it really is a team effort. Thank you. Our partners, we are able to have a free Fan Fest because we have public funding. Our states, 2 states, Kansas and Missouri, have provided support. So I get to be out front and take a lot of credit, but it really, there are literally thousands of people who are contributing to making all that happen.
Jeff.
Including Jeff.
What a tee up. I didn't forget about you. Jeff is, I don't know how to describe all of the things that you know how to coordinate and organize with a team, of course, but Jeff is the person on this panel who helps design the spaces where all of this kind of connection can happen. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about not just World Cup, but you do this a lot. Will you tell the audience here a little bit about your process and the way that you imagine these spaces for people to connect around global sporting events?
So that's a big question, right? Like I mentioned earlier, we get the fortune to work on so many different events: Olympics, World Cup, Super Bowls, Final Four, outdoor stadium series, Field of Dreams. Like, these are amazing events, right? And they're all a little bit different. So if we're talking about Olympics, we're talking about a single city, but multiple venues, probably 40 competition venues. If we're talking about a World Cup, in this case, in 26, we're talking about 3 countries, 16 cities, right? That's a different approach. If we're talking about a Super Bowl, that's 1 city, 1 venue, 1 day. Kind of takes over for the whole week, but it's just a slightly different approach. But if I were to say what's kind of consistent across the piece, I'd say in terms of our process, you identify the moment or moments, create moments, and then you amplify the moments. And so what I mean by that. Earlier today, Jonathan was talking about Cathedral of Memories, and memories is huge. It's really big for us in the event world because a lot of what we do is temporary. It's ephemeral. It's here today, gone tomorrow type stuff. But the memory stays with you. So we can build a 12,000 seat or design and build a 12,000 seat beach volleyball venue at Long Beach in LA. But after the Olympics, it's a beach again. It's gone. So the only thing that you do have is your memory. And that's really important. So when we look at, say, a World Cup at Arrowhead, and Argentina's going to play there, what are we thinking about? We're thinking about that moment where the 12-year-old is in the corner tunnel that may or may not be perceived as the best seat in the house. But if that's the tunnel that Messi is coming on and off the field, and that 12-year-old gets the high five, I imagine that 12-year-old doesn't remember the score of the game, but they're going to remember that moment, and that's their World Cup moment. So that's what we're trying. When I say amplify, you identify, you create, and then you amplify these moments.
Can I maybe just build on that a little? I didn't realize it was going to be here, but when we first started talking about Fan Festival, and one of our goals is to be distinctly Kansas City. So we want people to know where they are. We want the experience to feel Kansas City. We want them to know what's different about us. And part of that is our hospitality and our welcoming nature and that authentic, warm, the heart of the tournament, the heart of the World Cup. And so one of the things that Populous has designed for us at Fan Festival is a 65-foot giant heart-shaped arch, and there happens to be a 3D render of it. I didn't know it was going to be here. I was getting a water earlier. It's on the second from the top, far right there, that people will walk through when they walk into Fan Fest. So we're saying, welcome, we're glad you're here. This little kind of Midwest hug. It's beautiful, it's designed, it's after security. Like, all of the thought that goes into that creates the moment where the 12-year-old stops to take the picture, to say, like, I was part of the World Cup.
Inspired by what you're saying, what I love what you're saying is a lot of times when we work on product, a lot of times we think of 3 filters we want things to go through. Of course, it's got to perform, it's got to work for the athlete, it's got to perform for Gilberto and for the whole world, all the World Cup. It's got to perform. It's got to have a certain beauty to it. There's a filter to the beauty. But what you're describing to me reminds me of the third filter we call like the soul. So there's got to be like you got to. It's like you got to get the moment, especially connecting to the kid who gives the high five to the athlete coming through the tunnel. I mean, wow, that's very personal, and that's what it needs to be. And I think the products, that's where the soul piece is really the key thing, to be able to actually personalize the me to we, to make that happen.
It's very interesting because I'm in the middle as an ex-player where everything's connected to what I did for many years. Be on the field to give, the spectacle for the fans. As we always say, the football unites people for a purpose. I think the purpose is more than what's just the game. It's much more. It's much bigger. As you mentioned, where the little boy touching Messi or any other idol in the tunnel, this is something very unique. He will not remember maybe the color of the shirt, anything else apart from that moment. And I can say that I was fortunate enough because as long as you play, you don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes, but now understand, listen to the stories, listen to many other people I have spoke over the past years, what they do, to make these kind of tournaments happen. It's something very unique. You see that the game itself is very small, it's very little. It just come on top, but what those guys do, so many different cultures together for this beautiful tournament is something amazing.
But Populous reminds us of this a lot. We have to remember people are coming for the match. So it is so important what happens on the field because it does bring people together, right? That is the uniting force. And I think people don't often understand what the players go through when we're all out having fun and having the moments. I think there's sacrifice and there's things that we just don't see. We get to celebrate all of that.
But this sacrifice, it's part of our day-to-day life, what we do. But then, especially now, listen to all of these, so many stories, what is behind the scene. What I always say, there is a game behind the game, What is that, There are so many different type of events happen before the football really starts. Now, there's a lot of preparation, different kind of preparation. The players themselves, they are preparing their clubs now to come to, for this tournament. Different countries, different cultures, but one goal to come here, to present properly, to give the best of them, to please all of us as a football fans. And this is what we can do just to make sure that we have done a great job to compensate all this joint work, that nobody can do it alone, but it's a working force.
Yeah, I think that's a theme of gathering in general. We've talked about it all day long, just like the intentionality behind it. There's a great book by Priya Parker, if you haven't read it, called The Art of Gathering. It's one of my favorite books. It's one of the things I really enjoy about Populous, to be honest. I'm a social impact documentary filmmaker that convinced an architecture firm to hire her, and best decision ever for me. Hope they feel the same. But it's really about that storytelling piece. I came and I interviewed and I saw people who really cared about people. I saw a company that was part of the experience from the beginning, because your experience with a World Cup game often includes air travel. It means it starts the moment you land in a city. And when you land in the Kansas City airport, you see the heart, you see the Populous logo, which is great for us. But it really is about making sure that those components of the story, those chapters of the story, are seen and visible and experienced throughout the duration of what an event can be. And I think you all are making great points about how it's longer than just one game, and it's longer than the tournament even. And it might be interesting to explain a little bit about FanFest. How long does it go on? What can people expect? Maybe some people in the audience are going, what is a FanFest? So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that is.
Sure. So you have to maybe zoom out a little, and this World Cup is, as I said, the largest ever. So until now, it's been 32 teams. This World Cup will be 48 teams. It is 3 continents. That has never been done before. The first match is June 11th, 6 days, I think, from today. And the last match is July 19th in New York. So that is over a month of matches, 100 plus matches. So we have 26 days in Kansas City between the first match and the last match. Our Fan Fest will be open at least 18 days. That is standing up an amusement park for a month. Again, back to the distinctly Kansas City, at its core, people come to FanFest because they want to watch matches in community. When you think about your favorite sports memory, as Jeff said, it may not be about the score or about what happened. It's who you were with, who you met, who you interacted with. So that viewing experience is important. But beyond that, it's a chance for us to unite the viewing experience with who we are as Kansas City. So yes, we are barbecue. We will have a barbecue of the day or week or whatever that might be. But we're also a much broader food culture. How can we show that? What does our music scene look like? Who are the innovators and athletes who have defined the experience in Kansas City. We're part of the founding of both the NFL and Major League Soccer. We're the only city in the world to have purpose-built stadiums for our men's and women's professional soccer teams. The Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is in Kansas City. The history of the rules of basketball live in Lawrence, Kansas. We've literally shaped sports in the world, and a lot of people don't know that. So we're going to have a bunch of sports fans who are going to be at the most joyful point in their lives. And we get to introduce them to Kansas City and show who we are.
I think that's actually an interesting point, just the idea of bringing Kansas City to the event. And I'm wondering, Gilberto, you have played in World Cups all over the world. As a player, do you feel a difference? Are you so focused on what you're doing in the match that you could be anywhere in the world? Or can you feel the identity of that city when you're in it, or cities?
I guess that's, every edition it brings something different, because of the culture of the country we are going to play, the numbers of fans who attend the game, and sometimes, can be relevant in order for example, if you have an opportunity to have a majority of your fans in your game, it's fantastic because the Brazilians, they are crazy, they will make a lot of noise, they'll sing, they won't stop. But, the reality is not like this, And then you have people who are fan of football. Being in South Africa, from South Korea and Japan, and then Germany, and then my last one was in South Africa, is completely different. But the passion is the same. I think this is what amazes me, the passion of the fans. Doesn't matter where they come from, which country. And we are fortunate enough because if you don't play with, doesn't matter whoever we play, apart from the support from that team, everyone supports Brazil. We have this this facility regarding the fans. We thanks for the all who came before us. Starting from many of them. Then we had Pelé, who played in the United States, and Garrincha, Romario, Ronaldo, and many of them, But of course, from one place to another, it changed the culture. I was impressed by my first, because in your first experience, I was one of the youngest from the squad, and just a few times being in the national team and play alongside your idols. At the moment when you are there, and you start to think, wow, what do I have to do here now? And how can I behave? How can I do my best in order for us to get the result and to succeed? But listen, every talent is different, and then you have to work very, very hard on your talent. What was my job? My focus on that first experience is like just do my best, to support the guys, because the position I've played, I don't know if everyone is familiar to football here, but I was explaining yesterday to Wilson, my position was to be in the middle, to support, to defend the guys, the center backs behind me, the goalkeeper, and then the guys up front. But my position is considered like the piano carrier. The guy who works hard for the others shine. And many times people question me, oh, this is hard to be there. I say, yes, it is, but it's my job. I have to do it properly. But there is one difference of being a piano carrier to do this hard work. You have to work properly to not let the piano fall. Because if the piano falls, the house falls down. And then fortunate enough to be alongside my idols, but then we won it. And when you go to the next one, there is a very high expectation on you to win it again. And the second one in Germany was my frustration because we got a quality team that we could have gone further. If we were going to win or not, this is another thing. But then we stopped on the way with the quality. And then we went to South Africa with a team that we have to renovate. a new style of play, maybe not the same talent, but the commitment was there. And then you have to represent well your country, because it's not about only play football. It's not only about play the World Cup. It's not about win or lose or wear the shirt. But looking back to where everything starts, my village, to play for them, to play for all the community, everyone who was there supporting you. I remember one of the interesting image I have in my mind for the final against Germany in 2002. Our manager, Scolari, he showed us a very nice video. He didn't say anything on this day in the final. I showed a clip. The best thing I have seen in this clip, apart from all the celebration in the country, was a village of Indians in the middle of Amazon forest. They were there, around, I don't know how, in the tent, I don't know how it's called. There was a TV there. They were there with their costumes, watching. This one, when I saw that, I said, wow, this is the meaning why we play football.
Applause is appropriate, I think, there.
Sorry to be a bit long.
What you just heard was a beautiful story of the ways that fans inspire players and a connection between fans and players. But it is worth noting, in a world that can be complicated like ours is, that it's not always beautiful. Sometimes it's actually the opposite side of that. I met Gilberto when he spoke at TED Sports, and I was in tears during his presentation. He was in tears during his presentation, and if you are man, woman, or non-binary, and you think that crying is weak, it is not. It is strength. I asked my boss, I cry in meetings, I cry in job interviews, but I think it's really healthy to own our emotions. What brought him to tears and what was so emotional was sharing some of the toxic stuff that happens on social media between players, and you can call them fans. No one is defined by their worst action on their worst day, but sometimes people are very passionate about their teams to a degree that things can happen, like death threats or just horrible things you would never say to a person face-to-face can happen online. And so I would love for you to just talk a little bit about Striver, just to share with this audience and with your fellow panelists what it is you're working on, because I think it's so incredibly important for the future of connection between athletes and fans.
It's great, to talk in this panel, because we talk about connections on the space where we're built for the fans, for everyone, and then the brands come along, to give us, kind of inspiration as well. But being a player, and having an opportunity to, especially the last years, after I retired, not play anymore, but being a fan, being work on TV, being work with FIFA, experience different type of, and then I said, how can I now, keep working football and keep supporting the player, keep doing something special to support people. A few years ago, me and my business partner, Tim Chase, we started a project called Striver. Striver is a fun engagement platform where we basically, want to talk about football, about our teams, about our passion. We built it because my business partner, Tim Chase, he had, on that time, a 5-year-old son. And he got a little bit tired and concerned, especially because his son was scrolling on iPad, with some platforms. He was concerned about the safety of it for his son. And then he mentioned to me when we've met and said, listen, I'm built some platform where, because I'm concerned about the safety of my son being in some social platforms, I don't know exactly. I want to build something that he can be safe and I don't need to worry about him. I say, well, okay, what's next, Okay, I want you to come with me. I say, but, okay. But this what I want to do have a moderation against online hate, against online abuse. I said, wow, this is something that grabbed my attention because there's a lot of platforms, in the world. You can use anything you want. But this is something that then tick on my mind. I said, well, if this is good for your son, can be good for my kids too. Despite the fact they are a bit bigger. But my nephews and niece, but also many other kids. But then there are some things that, is going to be working is for football players, because many of them, after the games, they receive a lot of hate messages, very abusive messages in the way that nobody entitled to hear or listen or to see in the social space. Because there is their space, somebody come there, it's not fair. And then I said to him, listen, I'm on it, and just to wrap up, this what we built in the past year, striver for starting football, but the idea is to come for other sports, to give this support for the athletes, but not only for them, for the fans. We call that this is a safe environment where we can have a conversation, where we can have a proper chat about our passion for our team without being receiving, crazy messages from people who are not supposed to be there to engage with us in a conversation, in a proper one. And we have been working so hard, to make the project grow. And I hope that soon we can support much more people. And we are working hard. We are happy with the everything that has come from since then we start. And hope, at some point, if you want to be in a safe environment, go there and download striver.football. And we are planning also for the World Cup. As we talk about, fun engagement, as I cannot play anymore, I'm not going to be on TV this time, work for FIFA, but, Striver, I'll be on Striver to interact with people, because what we want in this platform to bring the, to have the same emotion in the platform, not only when you are on the field, not only when you are in a fun fest, but also bring this after the fun fest. Okay, come here. After the game, come to Striver and have some fun.
Love it. And that's been a theme today, just about this idea of it's not, I think it was Jonathan Vlasopoulos who said it's not one or the other. It's not digital or virtual or in person. It's both. So I would just to the panel overall ask, are there ways that you're seeing connection happen? And that can be between fans with each other, between fans and teams, between fans and athletes. And maybe how you're thinking about it for FanFest, or Jeff, how you're thinking about it in work you're doing to support the World Cup. How are you weaving in connection in those digital ways, if you are, or trends you're seeing that you care about, Wilson?
One thing I'm excited about, just being here with you and with Populous and just Populous House. I've had the joy of studying architecture, really understanding. Architecture. When I studied it, was like form follows function. There's just kind of a real basic kind of way of thinking, because the function's got to work. But the thing that I love, I went from that journey, got to be a part of, to be one of the greatest companies on the planet with Nike, and really understanding how to connect to people and trying to connect people. I see Populous doing that. I see the notion of, it's not just form follows function, but form engages people. Form connects to people. And that's a much bigger conversation than, creating a room, but really starting to make a connection. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about how design can continue to express what needs to happen more and more and more in connection with people and with each other.
Beautiful.
I think the best digital moments are always rooted in the authentic moments, right? So if we're at a fan fest or if we're at a stadium, the things that are being done digitally are, to me, always things that are rooted in something that's really happening, something authentic. So as a designer, I talked about trying to create these moments, right? I say create them, you could say fabricate them, manufacture them, doesn't matter what the word is. Because that's the moment that's going to be then shared socially, digitally. And I think that's what we're trying to do, create as many moments like that as you can. We talk about the heart in the Fan Fest. Like, that will be the most photographed moment in Kansas City. Could be even more than what's photographed at the stadium. Like, that is going to be the moment, and everybody's going to want that, and that's going to be an authentic moment.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing that we're working on together is making sure that we're creating moments where people feel like they belong, they see themselves. So this is a little stroke of genius. How do we connect soccer customs and cultures to either Kansas City or a broader audience? So the celly that happens after a goal is scored, can we have a celly selfie moment at FanFest? Can we have a dad bod contest at FanFest? Validating everybody's fandom, whether you're there first thing in the morning to line up to see it. And then I think the other piece of it is making sure that we're sharing information in a way that's relevant. So it's going to be hot in Kansas City. It's June and July. We don't think it's that hot, but apparently it's hot. So Populous is designing misting stations down the center live viewing area that are also fun, and they're beautiful. Telling people where those are and where to go for water, shade, assistance. Those are very not too exciting things, but they are so important, thinking about WhatsApp and how international visitors will use that as opposed to an app. Those are the digital things behind the scenes. Fans being able to see themselves and share those moments, and then making sure that we're sharing information that they can, that they need and want.
We are about at time, and so before we say goodbye, we'll just say if there's anything else that anyone on the panel wants to share in their thoughts about World Cup, the team they're rooting for. I have some guesses. You can share that. You can share any final thoughts before we say goodbye to our lovely audience.
Soccer, football is a beautiful game, as was coined by Pele from Brazil, and that's indeed the truth, and it's an opportunity for all of us to come together as a planet like we need to be together. And very inspired, Gilberto, by your story, by all of what we're trying to do to connect those stories to people. So I'm excited about the World Cup.
Well, I'm too excited, to be back for the World Cup. And I hope, that we, as football fans, as sports fans, we can embrace these moments, because it's a moment for us where we can share not only the stories, but share moments as a human being, especially. Because, sometimes if you just think about, okay, I need to connect people, on an online space, and blah, 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 and we forget sometimes our human side of it, It's important that we engage and connect to people in many other aspects, but I never forget our human side. And how can we enjoy as much as we can these tournaments and make this the best tournament as ever, the best moments in our life?
I love that. I told Gilberto this before, that my first exposure to the World Cup was in 1994. I worked for Sprint, now T-Mobile, on the sponsor side, and had never really seen anything like it. Got caught up in a Brazilian fan, I don't want to say march, it was more like a dance to the match. The joy that the fans had, like you couldn't ignore it. It was so infectious. So the reason I'm doing this is that I understand the power of that joy to transform people and to transform, I hope, our city. And I have 2 adult daughters. One lives in Kansas City. I hope one comes back. I want Kansas City to have great jobs, to have a great culture, to have great attractions that will bring people to Kansas City for the first time or again. I would encourage you, even if you're not a soccer fan, choose a team. Curacao, smallest team to qualify ever, 200,000 people playing in Kansas City. An amazing story. Like, choose a team and learn about the culture, learn about the customs, become a fan, and you will not regret it.
I think the thing I'm looking most forward to in the World Cup is, we talk about these stadiums, we talk about structures, and structures hold people, I think it's been said, but stadiums, they are the creators of moments, which are the creators of memories, and the togetherness, the belonging. When you have 78,000 people at Arrowhead all chanting together, that is community. And we're going to have that times 16 stadiums, times however many matches that are going to be played across the 3 countries. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I can't thank all of you enough. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing about connecting and humanity. I think it was really, I loved it. I hope those in the room loved it too. Thank you all so much for your time.